Hi everyone, we are here today with Julie Osborne, who is here to talk about how her self-worth and growing her self-worth has had such a big impact on her life. So Julie is part of my Authentic Tech Leaders Mentorship program, and that's the main reason I know her. But since I met her, I've seen how she's stepped into this position of leadership, a position of senior leadership, got the respect of colleagues and her team, and started to kind of really put herself out there and work towards this vision that she wants to achieve. And what's amazing to me is because I've always seen Julie like this, just understanding that she used to suffer with challenges of self-worth. So I thought this was a really interesting story to tell. So welcome, Julie. Thanks for joining us. The first thing I wanted to do was just get you to give us a bit of background about what do you do and what do you enjoy about it, so that people have a bit of an understanding of you.
Okay, so my current role is I work in Vodafone Business and I head up their customer security services. So I know Vodafone are known for doing phones. Yes, we do mobile, but we also do networking and hosting. So from a tech perspective, it's having that full range. We also have a bit of IoT thrown in there as well. And I head up a team who are basically account security managers. So our role is to make sure that Vodafone are delivering technically what we need to from a contractual requirement for our customers. And I like to say it's a mix of technical, but it's also having that service management, that person to person engagement, where you're taking the technical and you're turning it into plain English for them and explaining where their risks are and how we're looking to address them. So it's what I would describe on the edge of tech, but it's a really vital role because you have to please the customer whilst also making sure technically we're delivering in the background. I think it's that personal connection that I enjoy the most. I'm a compliance. I don't know. I love compliance. That's the best way to put it. So when you're looking at contracts and you're looking at what you're delivering for a customer and making sure that you do that, that also makes me happy.
Okay. So it's the people and making sure that it all fits together and making sure that it all works together, and you're delivering what they need, but also what they want as well. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely maintaining that relationship and that engagement.
So what got you into tech in the first place? How did you get there? Because I know there's a bit of a story in this.
So when I started off, I wasn't fortunate enough to go to university. And so I went and got myself a job. I ended up as a civil servant, originally in the court service, which is all very much around compliance. There's a theme here. And, it's a great opportunity being a civil servant because you can move across different regimes, different skills. It's all there for you. And I moved across into what we call scrutiny, which is audit, and that was around looking at EU subsidies and whether people are complying. So again, that compliance theme. And finally, I moved along to work in the Missing Persons Bureau. Amazing job again, completely left field. To do with audit or compliance, but I'd taken a career break for a couple of years being a mum. And I was helping a friend who was applying for a role in information security. And within the civil service, as with lots of places, it's around competency based. So I was sitting down with him, looking at the job description, talking to him about what his skills were and where he could apply them. And I'm sat reading this job description thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's just audit and compliance. I can do that. I don't know about security, but I can do all these things. So anyway, my friend applied for the job, but for whatever reason, he was not successful. And so I said to him, do you mind if I apply? And he said, no, go for it. So I got the job.
Wow.
And I mean, that joining into tech in somewhere like the civil service, what they tend to do is give you the time that you need to learn about the subject matter that you're working in, whereas in private industry, you have to already have the skills, you have to already be there. In the civil service, it's okay to not know something. So I was very lucky to spend a good few months just getting to understand tech and information risks and things like that.
But they must have seen in you that you brought something that they needed as well. So it wasn't just, they weren't bringing you in completely fresh. They saw that compliance and audit background and saw that that could bring something to it.
It's about transferable skills, isn't it? I had the skills there. I just needed to learn the subject.
So you didn't go to university, you didn't have a degree. And I think that's one of the things that we talked a bit about that's kind of came up as part of this. You're going into tech, most people have a degree. So how do you think it held you back in your career?
I think the biggest challenge for me was in that self-worth, that self-belief. So although I would go in and deliver and do a job, I'd never quite believe I was good enough compared to others who've gone and done a degree or gone and got their formal qualifications or got a doctorate, etc. And I certainly think that I didn't push myself forwards enough. So there was never a thought that I could go further. And definitely in some of the roles that I applied for, not having a degree did hold me back, because they were looking for that specific qualification that somebody had. And I like to think nowadays that's something that's changed more generally. There's not as much of a push to have that qualification. People come in all shapes and sizes. They learn in different ways. They respond in different ways. And certainly it's something that I look to as well. It's about you as a person and the transferable skills that you bring. So yeah, I think it held me back, definitely.
And more, it sounds like holding you back in your head a lot, kind of not pushing yourself forward. It wasn't necessarily about people not giving opportunity, but it was about kind of going, well, I don't think I'm as good as they are. So I'm because I haven't got this tick box kind of studied this particular thing. And that's,
And it's amazing how many business conversations you have where people actually mention their degrees or their history back in uni, and I didn't have that point of reference, which is then a connection and working at a peer-to-peer. So you always feel that you're not a peer because you didn't go to university, you didn't have that experience. So it definitely personally held me back.
And I'm just thinking of applying this elsewhere, because tech's quite good at measuring via intellectual, I've got that knowledge. So not just about degrees, but quite often it's like, well, I've been on this training course, I'm officially trained in this, and therefore I know about it. And it's not that great for that side of things, is it? So yeah.
No, I think that was the saving grace for me moving into tech and into security. I went on a couple of the courses through the civil service that enabled me to have that clear foundation of how you should deliver in information security. Without that, I think I may not be where I am now, because that did give me a standing where I know actually I'm working in the way that the government works. So this must be right.
So you had done the learning. It's just that you didn't have the degree bit that everyone else was kind of pushing around as well. So
absolutely. It's there's always opportunities to take the formal qualifications, but actually learning in how you work is probably as key.
So do you have any specific examples of where it held you back? So any particular times that you can think of?
I think so. After I left the civil service, I moved out into the IT industry, into private sector. Scary enough on its own when you've been a civil servant, and you feel quite protected and safe, I think. So I was taking a big leap of faith in stepping away from that comfort zone. but I worked really hard, and I had a really good line manager who enabled me to progress in terms of the work that I was delivering. But I never felt that so again, it comes back to that self-worth. I never felt that I had the right to ask for more, to push for more. Be that in terms of recognition across my peers, or the financial recognition, and also being a female. I knew that I was being paid less. The fight had just begun, I think, for women in tech to start pushing for more. But I had a guy who I was always working to, and I'd do some great stuff. I can look back and say now I did some great stuff, but actually that recognition would never happen because it would hit him, and he would take recognition for his team, which I know in terms of leadership, you are what your team deliver, but there needs to be that recognition of what somebody's doing. And I was in a position where I was looking for a next step, and the guy I'd been working to had been moved across to another team. And my lovely line manager then said, look, it's great, I've got you this position over here. And it was again working under this guy. And I didn't feel that I was able, even though I had a great relationship with my manager, I didn't feel that I was able to say, look, I've been doing all this stuff. I'm already at this level. I want something more. And the day that he said to me, you know, we'll put you up into this role and give you a few more months and see. So I was asking for my next step up. We'll give you a few more months to see. And I just said, you know, if you haven't already seen what I've been doing for the last year, why not? Why is that? And that was the point that made me realise actually that work that I'm doing, that credit is being taken by somebody else. Even then, I didn't feel strong enough to be able to say to my manager, it's him. I don't want to go and work with him. I don't want to work for him. I don't feel like I'm getting recognised. And that was the point for me at which I think I started to realise. I think my self-worth had started to change. And actually, I deserved more because I'd been working so hard and I'd developed so much. And that's when I started looking to move on to another space, to another company.
So and what's interesting in what you're talking about is that it's that you felt like you had a good boss that was giving you opportunities, but at the same time there was something there that was kind of undermining, in the sense of he was pushing some opportunities your way, but you weren't getting that recognition flowing through, saying, yeah, you're doing a good job at this, or yeah, let's push you up through the ranks, or whatever it is, to show that you have something there. It was just opportunities at that sort of same level, keeping on doing the same thing. And yeah.
And I think the challenge was he was using me at higher levels, so I was delivering in that space. But it was still very much, and particularly in security, it's a male-dominated environment. I know it is across all of tech, but security is a much smaller field. And I very much felt like the little woman.
Yeah.
And a pat on the head, well done. You know, here's a very small recognition of what you've done. And actually, he was moving me around because I was delivering, and I was doing I was going in and solving problems. And because I didn't have that self-worth for myself to go, oi, hang on, look at me, what I'm doing. It just didn't happen. So yeah.
So you've started to talk about this, but so things started to change. You started to realise, and then what happened after that?
So the biggest thing for me, I think, is that was probably a moment, and you can tell I remember it well, where I realised, okay, I need to do something. It's time for me to move on. And I looked for a role in a company that had the right ethos, that you weren't just a number, You were
Mm-hmm.
a person that they did stuff for the community because that was important to me, and globally as well, to do stuff. And that I like the people that I'm working for. And I know everybody says, you need to like the person, but actually a job's a job. No, you need to like the person that you work for. So I moved across into Vodafone, and the culture is so very different.
Yeah.
And they are empowering and enabling. So I stepped into a whole new world. And whereas before I would have worked really hard and I would have got that pat on the head, I started to get very quickly real recognition. Within 3 months of being there, I was getting big shout outs from my boss in terms of what I was delivering and how amazing, and he's telling everybody, and it made me start to shift and build that confidence in what I was doing and how I was working, and going, oh my God, actually this person thinks I'm good. Maybe I am good. Maybe it's not all just in my mind. And I think over the last few years, it's completely changed my attitude and my approach to things, because I've evolved over that period of time. But within 1 year of being there, I definitely knew that I would push more boundaries. If I was offered an opportunity to do something, even if it was scary, I'd go for it. And just because there was no fear of failure, whereas previously I think I wouldn't have had the confidence in myself to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's okay. And if I don't get things exactly right, it's not the end of the world. Nothing's going to go wrong. We'll still keep moving forward. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. But it's that culture that you move into, and knowing that you are supported, that really, really helps.
And that just says so much, doesn't it, about the environment and the difference that an environment can make in terms of what it gets from its employees. What do you get from someone when you just give them that bit of nurturing, that bit of feedback, that bit of recognition? Suddenly they start to fly. And it's just such a different, as you're talking about it, it's just got such a different feel to it. The two different people you've described there are just amazing, aren't they?
And there's an irony, because the manager in the old company was great, and he did, I got on really well with him. I still do.
Yeah.
But that company ethos wasn't there to recognise how somebody's delivering, or perhaps he was a different style of leader to my manager. But I think Vodafone as a whole looks to empower and support their staff, and I could see how they supported staff before I went to that company. I knew I wanted to move, but I had to take the right move. That was going to be not only a role that was challenging and inspiring for me, but that there's a company that supports you as a whole. It really is key. Definitely.
So, and what you've sort of started to talk about is how, as a result of this, you've stepped out more and more. You've been willing to take that leap, and you've stepped into more of a leadership role. You're willing to kind of lead other people rather than kind of feeling like, right, I've got to do what everyone else tells me.
Yeah.
So that's sort of leads me on to the next question, which is what does being a leader mean to you? What's that mean?
So I think I've learned a lot, particularly in the last 12 years. So I was given the great opportunities, and I wanted, I'd say I was very delivery focused, and I wanted to always be able to deliver. And then I realised that actually it's not just about me. I have a team, and those team, the members, each member of that team does something that's fantastic, or does something that they want to improve. So looking to enable everybody to come together as a team and say, okay, guys, who does something that's great that we want to carry on doing? What are we finding that really, really annoys us, and enabling them to be able to say, that doesn't work, or I hate it when you do this. And there's no blame culture. There's a, right, let's take it. What can we do with it? How can we move that forward? How can we change that and deliver? And I think that recognition within myself that that you achieve so much more when you pull every skill from each individual together to come and move forwards really changes the dynamic of how you work.
Yeah.
And for me as a leader, the satisfaction of seeing everybody feeling they can move forwards, feeling they can change things, that they can say, let's do this, let's try that makes a huge difference, I think. And having the opportunity to influence the changes at higher level, seeing how we can change how we work to improve, and being able to do it rather than sitting. I know probably everybody can say, oh, yeah, that's never going to change because that's the way it happens in this organisation. And I've always been an advocate of change. So I think making that a positive for your team and being able to then influence the change and say, yes, actually, it's right to go that way, listening to them is the best thing for me.
And the what I'm hearing there is it's that creating that environment again where people feel like they can take the risks and put themselves out there and not feel like they're going to be done for failing. Okay, we missed something, right? How do we move forward on this? What do we do to bring it back together and kind of fix it, rather than finding the blame and kind of going in that direction?
And it's a really difficult thing to achieve. I think I feel like I've made it because I feel like my guys can come and say, oh,
yeah,
wrong, and you go, okay, what were the good bits? You know,
yeah.
what can we continue with? And certainly as a leader, I've a guy who I took on, very similar background to me actually, and he'd been working in a sales environment, and I saw qualities in him to move him into a role, and he's now leading a team underneath me, and he's excelling and he's flying, and he soaks everything up like a sponge, and that's the best feeling I could ever have, because I can see what he's achieving. It's not about me anymore, it's actually about my team and seeing how they're progressing. So I think I always have in my mind, every person brings something to the team, and it will be different backgrounds. So when I started, I had a guy who'd worked in incident management, I had somebody else who'd worked in hosting, this guy came from sales, and you pull these different skills together and they're all equal, so you're treating everyone as equals. And I think that harks back to my own self-worth, to make it clear to everybody, you have a skill, you have something that this team needs to be able to move forwards, and it helps them and how they feel as well, I think.
And so that was what I was going to go on to, which is, so what change have you seen in yourself since that you've got more self-worth, since you've started to value yourself more? What's the difference between you now and you back however many years ago?
I think people that worked with me then probably saw my potential. I know lots of them saw my potential. I don't think I ever believed them. But I would say the confidence that I have now, and that I feel that it's okay to say I'm actually good at what I do. And I don't know whether that's a male-female thing, that actually men find it a lot easier to be able to say, yes, I did that well. But I certainly, with a low self-worth as well, now I'll just say, yeah, look what we've achieved. But it's usually a we, because I'm thinking about my team, but look at what I've achieved.
Yeah.
And it enables me to look at the bigger picture and what I want to do. So you get to a point where I love my job and I love the challenges that my job brings to me. But because of my background, because of where I came with no degree, etc., because there are 10% of females in security, I have a real drive that I want to help women and young people come into tech, and being a leader and having that confidence now to say, actually, I'm going to go and do that. And I don't need to ask permission. I'm not asking somebody to set something up for me. And it can be a bit scary at times, but I'll just go and do it. So I reached out to a local college and said, okay, we want to be a part of it. We want to help. And actually, we're now setting up, I have a team who are going to help within Vodafone. We're supporting the curriculum. So we're driving security into there. And for me, it's always about how do we bring females into tech? How does that happen? And I have an approach in my mind which ties around the role that I do. So I work in tech, but actually the role that I perform, I need to understand tech, but I'm not a techie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for females that are interested in tech, they can be a bit scared by the idea of having to go back and get those technical qualifications, whereas actually audit and compliance is a huge part of security. And in fact, of any tech industry, you always have those checks and balances. So driving out towards those females and saying, actually, although you might want to have that understanding of tech and you need to learn it to a certain degree, if you've got these business skills or if you've got these things that go with it, you can go into tech. You don't have to be threat hunting. You don't have to be at the top of the technical A game to get into it. And I think that perhaps is something that holds girls back at the moment, that belief that it has to be all encompassing.
They have to really be able to get into the nitty gritty and want to be absorbed in it. Whereas the thing that you're talking about is it's your role in particular, and there are plenty of roles where, yeah, it's an understanding, but it's the big picture. It's being able to bring those other skills. And that's going back to that self-worth. It's about valuing those other skills equally. Yes. And seeing that these are just as important, and that we need more people bringing those skills in there as well, don't we? So, yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting when I so I took a look at the job description for a security manager, and it's very male dominated. It's very much aimed at a subject matter expert who's technically advanced. And actually, when I look at the role and what if you ask me what do I want from that role, I want somebody who can interact with the customer, have a really good understanding of all of security, to be able to use the subject matter expertise in the background, but to present to that individual. And I think probably there's a lot more females that would be great at that engagement, that empathy, that buying in with the customer and understanding what they need and how they need it. So I'm looking to make changes within my own structure of how we do stuff to make it look more attractive to females, because I think everything is written with a male bias. That's just the way that things happen in tech.
So just stepping away a little bit further, the thing that, just noticing as well, is that just how much you, going back to this question, what's the change in you? There's this massive change about the impact that you're having. So by you valuing yourself more, you're valuing those skills in other people more, and you're bringing them through. And isn't that just amazing? It's like, well, put it in yourself, and actually you can really bring others up through as well. You can have this massive impact.
You're right, actually. I think I now have the opportunity to do that. But it is my own self-confidence that has enabled me to get there. Definitely, you're right. Yeah.
So you've been part of my Authentic Tech Leaders Mentorship program, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit and just ask how that's helped you over the last, because it's about 4 or 5 months that we've been doing this. So how's that helped you within all of this, and just generally?
There is an irony. So when I first read your list of things that we could achieve with attending your mentorship program, there was a piece about time and having time to do things, and I'm constantly busy. I never stop. I'm always taking on too much and pushing myself, and I think that there's an irony that you put in a time audit that we all were to complete, and I never completed it because I didn't have enough time. But what I did, and this is what's really helped me to shape and change how I look at things, is those conversations that we have, those peer-to-peer, where we're all chatting about it and thinking about the focus for that week. It made me stop and think, okay, what do I spend time doing? Why do I do that? And I think that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
I've already expressed how much I want to do these other things around women in security or bringing youth into tech, and I never recognised what was important to me in a formal way. It was something I was doing as a sideline, but work would take over. The one thing that you've brought to me is stopping and reflecting on where I'm spending my time and for who.
Yeah.
So is it for me, or is it actually for that person? And there's a great example of I had a really, really great guy who's up and coming, but just slightly lacking confidence. And I would attend a lot of meetings for him, to be his backup in case anything would happen for him. And I stopped and looked at this and said, well, actually, I don't need to do this. He can go on his own. I've got the confidence in him to do it. The only way he's going to build his own is to do that. And actually, then I free up that time. And what's important to me is progressing with all of the things that I want to do, so I can use that time for me. And I know I set a little challenge when we were in the group, a challenge for myself, which is every day I would either not attend something that week, or I'd say, well, actually, I don't need to attend that meeting anymore. And I'd use that time back to myself. And it's really changed how I look at my days. And I make time for myself, and I make sure I keep the space that's important. And that's the miracle, because that's the reason I joined your mentorship program in the first place. But I do make the time now.
And I just remember at the beginning, you were basically in back-to-back Zoom meetings all day, every day, and we explored this. How do you get anything done?
Yeah,
and you were super efficient at kind of delegating and getting things set up and all of that to make sure actions happen. And it sounded like things were happening.
Oh yeah.
It was when you stepped back and went, but are those things happening for me in the way, am I influencing in the way that I want to? Am I getting out there? And that's where you started saying, well, if I can just free up a little bit of time each day, I could do more and have more impact. And it's just been amazing to kind of hear it as it's gone through.
Yeah. And I don't feel guilty anymore, and I think that's something probably a lot of people can relate to. And I really try hard with my team as well to say to them, just look, and if there's a meeting that you attend every week, but actually, have you got any input this week? Mm-hmm. No. Okay. So maybe it's okay for you to just not go to that meeting. And that's what you brought to me, that I love your phrase of being curious and exploring. Because I stop and I think, okay, do I need to do that? I've a brilliant one coming up in a couple of weeks' time, where one of my guys has added me to a meeting, and I've already assessed it and decided, actually, he can do it. He can manage this. He can come to me if he needs to, but I don't need to be there in that meeting. So my whole approach to how I manage things is less I have to be there for everything to make sure that everything goes right. So yeah, it makes me a lot lighter in the shoulders.
And what you've captured there as well is, and going back to what you said at the beginning, okay, the exercise was do a time audit, and you never quite got around to doing the time audit. But the purpose of that time audit was to encourage you to step back and think about where you were using your time. And that's part of all the way through a lot of the things we've done. It's just about noticing and being curious. And it's not necessarily about doing the exercise. It's going, what did this exercise tell me? That's interesting. And then that's just something to take into, like you say, into everything. What am I feeling right now? What's the impact this is having? And it's just amazing, isn't it, how it flows through.
And I think the only other thing I would say is the weekly sessions that we had together as a group had such an impact, because we all supported each other. Everybody had been through something similar, I think, or could have a view where they'd come out of something from a positive perspective. So you'd come with your woe, as it were, and everybody would be there to pick you up and help you. And I think it's quite difficult to find a community where you just support each other, which sounds silly, but I think women can be quite worried at times about needing to progress and needing to push forward. This gives us the opportunity to take a breath and go, okay, we're all good. We can just learn from it.
And even though there are people with quite different backgrounds in some cases, the number of weeks where people turned up with the same challenge, and they're like, and you struggle with that too? Oh wow, I'd never realized that wasn't just me. And that's the power that comes through. It's just amazing.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
So going back to self-worth, what advice would you have for anyone who's feeling low confidence or low self-worth?
So I think it's very easy to say to people, believe in yourself. But what I would say is I recognise the signs where you find yourself frustrated, or where you feel like you're ready for the next step, but it's not being offered to you. Your career is in your hands. And it's the simplest thing that I learned that really pushed my career forwards. You have to take a risk. You have to be brave. And in that, you have to trust in yourself. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You try again, but actually you've learned something. So I think my advice is find your strength. In that frustration, recognize that it's not that somebody else is going to fix that for you. You have to fix it for yourself. And when you're looking for another opportunity in another company, for example, take your time and find the right job that excites you, that has the right company behind it, that's going to drive you forwards in the way that you genuinely want to be. Money is nothing, but recognize what you're worth. And feel brave enough to ask for it, because nobody's going to do that for you. You have to do that for yourself, and be a little bit afraid, because that's a good thing. It means that you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself. Definitely.
And I think just reflecting on what it's almost like you say, saying value yourself more is really not that useful, but sometimes it's just in recognizing that you're not valuing yourself, that's the point. What I heard is where things started to shift, where you started to go, oh, maybe there's a question here of whether I could have more recognition, I could do more. And just again, in that being curious and going, oh, that's where things started to shift for you. And I think that's, so it's not about pushing yourself to do it. Although when you do, what's the worst that can happen is the other thing I'm hearing what you say. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. Okay. And then you find the next thing to do. So one final question is, where do you see your career going from here? I know you love this question.
So I have a challenge with this question, as you full well know. I would say that and looking back and reflecting on the low self-worth, I would always say I was never career orientated. I never wanted to achieve. And over time I realised, yes, I probably am career focused, but actually what's really important to me and what I want to develop over the next couple of years, it's not about stepping up, it's about improving my leadership skills and being able to make a difference, and kind of fine-tuning all of the things that I've learned in the last year. I feel like I'm on another level, and now I need to use that and take time to enjoy it. Take time to enjoy my mission around women in security. Make the space for that, and that's enough for me. And then we'll see, do I want to step up? Well, if the right opportunity presents itself and it's something I want to do, I think that's the thing. If if it's scary, but it's an enjoyable scary, then yes, I'll go for it. If not, then I'm okay. I'm okay with being me and doing what I'm doing now.
And I think you've captured that just so well, in that sense of, it's not necessarily about seeing that you want to work your way up the leadership ladder or anything like that and become CEO or anything like that. That's what that question suggests. But it's about following what you love and following what you enjoy and following what you're drawn towards. And if that means moving up, that means moving up, but it's not necessarily about pushing that. And I think that's, yeah, that just comes through so well. Yeah. Good luck. Let's get some more women into security.
I'm on a mission.
Yeah. and you have so much to say in all of this. That's the thing, that really comes through in what you said today, and more generally whenever we've spoken. It's just that so much passion comes through. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So thank you for joining us. And yeah, so if anyone's got any questions, well, I didn't say this at the beginning because we are recording this not live, but if anyone's got any questions that have come up throughout this, then please do drop them in the comments, because Julie and I will both be checking in and responding to them. So if anything comes up, any comments, anything that you want to say, please do drop them below and we'll be coming back and responding to them. And if you are interested in the Authentic Tech Leaders Mentorship Program, the next round starts in February. So if you want to find out and you want to join us, Julie is one of the people who will still be in there, so you can come and kind of meet us, and she'll be taking part in the next round too, I'm sure, and joining the group sessions. So yeah, come, well, DM me for more info, and yeah, sign up, please.
I fully recommend it. I think the community that you build from it is amazing, and I'm looking forward to going back and reflecting again on the sessions that we had previously. So yeah, it's been a great experience, definitely, for
Yay.
me.
Thank you so much, Julie. That's brilliant. And we will see everyone soon. See you later.
Bye.